Yes, welcome back to the Checkmk studio. As the next speaker, I have Walter Fisch with me. He's been with us since January. He's head of support. And basically, sounds a bit old school, but no, he does very modern things. So Walter, thank you for being here, and you're going to tell us more about our support diagnostics tool. Yes, thank you, Matthias. Let me introduce myself. Most of you will not know me, except for one or two employees who are with customers, who used to be with Sun and did Solaris support with me. Solaris support for a few years at Sun and Oracle. I was a leader there. I did the transition from a German into a European support organization and now global support organization. And we did 24/7 support and had in various countries for Oracle and Sun. Whatever country was in normal business hours would have to take care of support then. So that's my personal history. I grew up in Unix support, but the operating system then was Solaris, not Linux, and Checkmk I did not know until then. I have a dangerous half knowledge now. Now I'm at Track 29, and whenever people ask me, I have all the senior consultants around me who can really support me and make sure that I can answer questions in an excellent fashion. So that's my personal history. Now I'm at Trap 29 and I'm responsible for support organization and to turn that successively into that growth organization it's supposed to become, and also to introduce processes that can be scalable and international. And in the course of that, I want to mention that through the growth we have, we are, of course, looking for consultants. So if you know somebody who may have interest and the necessary know-how, that person can just contact me and get in touch, and we'll see if we can get something going. And maybe we have a job for somebody within Tribe 29. So what I do, for example, is standardizing support. And of course, to write that down into processes, the foundations for that had been created last year. So at Track 29, we had the service desk that you've all used before and seen before. Nonetheless, I did already implement a few modifications here and there to make sure that the service business becomes simpler and has a high degree of automation for us as well. And with these changes, it's already also important that the tool stays lenient and simple. Sometimes less is more, I keep saying, and this philosophy is something that I try to stick with when I do new implementations. Another important thing that we introduced was I set up KPIs so we could control our business and also see deviations, and to make sure that we can step in before it escalates. All this led to us realizing that we do have a high backlog that we gave priorities to, and of course now we're trying to reduce the backlog of open tickets successively. And something that I want to work on in the near future is creating a knowledge base. I mean, right now we do too often solve the same problems over and over again. And employees have the solutions in their head, but they have to reproduce it over and over again. And that really takes a lot of time for us. And to create and build a knowledge base, we will have FAQs, how-to documents, and also troubleshooting documents, and those will be made available to everybody. We do have existing information, such as the works and the manual and everything in the forum. Of course, we want to make sure that this can be. So let's get to my presentation. Why are we doing support diagnostics? We do think that this diagnostics will reduce times to solution for our customers, because now we are just asking too many questions to get the basic information from customers. For example, what's the operating system? And in the future, we want to have that automated and collect that in a standardized format, so we don't have to keep asking these questions. Also, we want to lower the number of requests. So the requests like, please send us this data that's still missing. It's kind of a ping pong game until we got all the data. So yeah, reducing that. And we want to have a simple possibility to make it easier for the customer to really select all the data that's necessary for this specific problem. And then a data bundle is generated for us. We often have to explain how data is being collected and generated. We want to exclude that. And also we want to make sure that incompatibilities and things that don't work together can be identified beforehand, so we can offer fitting solutions. It would be also good to have some basic user information over the product of Checkmk, for example, which plugins are being used, in order to be able to talk about future development of the product and maybe to see where is the need higher than in other aspects. So that's basically the architecture we are aiming for. You can see it here. We have a main site, and on the main site I can run the diagnostic data via Watto. So we are using Watto automation within Watto, and a background job. We are sending the information to the selected site to generate the data. On the site, we do, of course, have a cleanup job running. So to make sure that the file system isn't overrun when files are being overly generated. We want to make sure that there is no automated upload to Tribe29 or anywhere else. We want to be different from the manufacturer. This really has to happen from the customer or the partner to us. So then you have to upload the tar file to our support portal, or we can also have them sent to the cloud for larger files. And of course, we have considered that many of you have a support contract with a partner, and of course, the same mechanism applies for the partners. So the partners can also use this mechanism. Basically, we were thinking about security, of course, and only the CMK admin will have the permission. It's the only role with the permission to create and read diagnostic data. And we also make sure that there's full transparency of what data we are collecting. As we said, you have to manually transfer the files to us via SSL. We are considering how we can mark the data or highlight the data, so to make sure that we know where sensible data is inside. And we also are thinking about how to mask sensitive data so that sensible data doesn't even reach us. I mean, that's some work that's involved here. Also, we're thinking about how we can encrypt probably the data bundle or the data we've collected. Let me tell you what we considered. It's a two-layer approach. We've got the general information that we always have to collect. I mentioned that, and I will go into that in detail later. And we have recommended information that will remain optional, though, but I mean, you can just deselect that. And then, of course, component-specific questions will be asked, looking at the agents, the Checkmk core, the GUI, the event console, and the notifications. Those are the topics where we've really thought about in detail. Of course, there will be further components coming in later. And yeah, to get into some detail with some of the topics, with the general information, that's what we always want to have, and which is mandatory and will probably remain mandatory, is the OS version, the Checkmk version and edition. Of course, we want to know which Python version and path are being used. Of course, date and time of creation, maybe time zone, because then we know where our customers really have the problem and where the sites are. An OMD config show is an information that's interesting for us, and it often helps us to get the standard performance reports. And there should be an analyzed configuration that we would like to see. And then, of course, the recommended part that is optional. Of course, we would like to know which MKPs are being used, and this could be MKP find or MKP list. And of course, we would like to see which local checks are being implemented, because we regularly see that problems do occur in when upgrading an installation with the local files or the MKPs. So for us, that would be very helpful to have this information. And of course, this leads to us being able to understand what the customer is using exactly, and maybe what do we need to focus on when we implement future developments. So let's give you a few details of what we actually want to do in terms of data collection. There's, for example, the event console daemon, the log file, and therefore the configuration file coming with it. So with event console topics, we want to get these pieces of information. Same about agents. There are the CMK commands with the debug options, and of course that's relevant for us. And the SMMP walk for the host is also helping us. And then there's the debug version for the checks and the host. Of course, that's a good information to have. And for the special agent, there's a debug output as well, a specialized debug output. So this could be selectable in an interface where you enter the host name and the check accordingly. For GUI issues, it's interesting for us to have the web log, also in Apache, the access log and the error log. We really have to make sure which part of the data we mask, because there is often sensitive data included, but nonetheless, with all the other files, we will look into what can be sensitive and at least let you know that there could be sensitive data included. And of course, as I mentioned, we will think about how to mask sensitive aspects of the data. Looking at notifications, you do need quite a bit of information. So for the notify daemon, you need the log file, the status file, of course the notify log and the content, and the Checkmk, the Checkmk microcore log file, and in Vato it would be good to have the notifications configuration file, and for multi-sites, the configuration of the sites. I mean, that matters to us, of course. For the Checkmk microcore and live status and problems with that, we noticed we do need the microcore log. We do need the live proxy data. So for the log and the state. For the core, of course, the configuration file is interesting, and the state, of course, the number of helpers that is being used. and the live proxy status data. So let me show you what we've already implemented in Vato, how this is all supposed to happen. In the lower left, you see the diagnostics button. If you click that, you get this mask. And then you can choose from which side you want to see that. This is already the daily bills, and you can see it there. So this is quite rudimentary, but in the background we were focusing on making sure the framework is present so we can collect the data for the pieces of information that we need. And we are now on our way to develop all the data collections we need. So here we choose which pieces of data I would like to have. In the future, it will be possible to pick which product has a problem, and then you just get the request for general information, like things we ask for optionally, but there will be a pre-selection. So for usage information, for example, and we will offer product-specific topics, and for some people these will be selectable, and some of them are maskable. And if you then click the Start button, you get to the next screen, and you can see how it progresses, how the data is being generated, what data we are collecting, and where we archive the information. Of course, there's a download button, so you can save it on your local file system and then send it to the partner or to us. For the real admins, we have created something which is a command line interface, but that's limited to the local sites. So it doesn't, somebody has to log into the site, start the command, and then there will be options for collecting the different sets of data. But I'm quite sure that the command line is an effective tool and will be an effective tool, because you will find how you can create this data for several sites. I mean, you are creative people, you will figure that out. You've seen in the screenshots what the commands could look like. Command to create diagnostics out of CMK. So you can see where the file is, and then you can unpack it in your system, and then you can see what we've hidden inside there. Right now, you just see the general chase. And here's a short outlook into the future, what we considered for the future. And many of you are asking us, when will we have it implemented? It will all be part of Checkmk 1.7. We do believe that we should have diagnostic tools that can cover multiple sites at once out of Vato. Maybe we could have a form where you can upload it manually to 1229. And as I mentioned before, maybe we should have an encryption for the data bundle as well. Now, Matthias clicked a little too quickly. So I've mentioned this before. We want to make sure that sensitive data can be masked, and you've only seen a short overview. What files we have picked, but of course there are many other topics that we've already looked into. We had some thoughts about various things and what data we need, but step by step we're going to have this developed, and I'm sure you have requests for this and preferences, and I'd be happy if you get in contact with me, if you have got some information for me. Please use the feedback option in the contact form, and let me know, I want this extension, I want that for diagnostics, whatever you need. I will look at your wishes, your requests, your ideas, and classify them accordingly, and if possible, make them part of our further development. And that's pretty much all I had for my presentation, and we have about 10 minutes for questions and hopefully answers. Yes, a few questions were asked. Robert Sander, he's a partner, and he asks, will the partners be able to evaluate the diagnostic data? Hi, Robert. I'm quite sure that you are able to, because you are checking log files that you are requesting, or similar log files. I mean, you can evaluate them now, so I'm quite sure that partners will be able to. So yes. So if I understood correctly, creating these diagnostic packages is not connected to uploading them. So basically, creating is one step, and where the customer sends it is something different. Yes, indeed. There's a tar file that's being created, and the tar file can be sent to the partner, can be uploaded, or can be given to us or sent to us. And of course, the partner then has to unpack it and see what's in the package. And when the CMC log was analyzed beforehand, then you can still do that. But you just get a bigger bundle of data that contains more standard information. You may need like OS version and so on. Question by Christoph. What is cloudcheckmk.com? I haven't seen this web before, and a quick Google and search on HTTPS checkmk.com gave me no real info. Is that already online? The cloudcheckmk.com that exists, but we would give you that link when we're handling tickets. If it's about larger larger files, we needed a separate upload channel. So you get a URL which you can use to put things on the cloud. This is a temporary ticket, and it's really a specific URL with cryptic symbols that make sure that things end up in your folder in the cloud. So usually you would seek to support diagnostic with the ticket, but if it's large data, then you would need to get feedback before you upload something like 2 gigabytes. Exactly, Matthias. That's the issue. If the bundle is very big, then it doesn't make sense to send it with a ticket. But you can say, I've got 100 megabytes in our database ticket system, so it's quite large. Could you give me an upload location? But we would give them the link to upload things. Yes, okay. Anastasia has a question here. Now it's the case that the Checkmk, the standard log levels are set to notice. This doesn't really help in debugging. When you are the customer being asked to increase the log level to get more information. Thank you, Anastasios, for giving me this question. I think as a future employee here, you will be able to know that, yes, we will give people the request to increase the log file levels. Yes, Daniel has a question. Data to collect performance reports. What's supposed to go in the performance report? Because there isn't that much performance that's readable. For example, how long does it take to build a page when looking or doing a search in Warto? Yeah, page performance is an issue that Checkmk is slow in some areas. Is it possible to get that into statistics? Yeah, we wanted to have the standard performance report in the first draft, where the CPU usage and statistics and stuff that we have should be in there. You could consider what other information we need. Yeah, like page generation is not even in access log, in Apache access logs, is that right? I'm not sure, but Lars is nodding, so yes, I guess so. It would be an interesting option to see, to have that in a log file when it says that certain pages need really long to load. Lars says Daniel has already sent a feature request for that. So let's see when we can get this feature going, possibly. Ralf Brengel is asking, will there be disadvantages for customers who cannot or do not want to send information like that? Well, sure, then tickets cost 4 credits more. No, one disadvantage could be if you if we need to request further information and have this ping pong, then of course the time until we can deal with the problem gets longer. So we have to find a trade-off between data that I want to offer, that I'm not allowed to offer. There need to be a balance somehow. But maybe we can make sure that there shouldn't be any disadvantages. But yeah, you don't get to take advantage of this new system. Yes, thank you for this marketing fitting way of expressing it. It's not about putting anyone at a disadvantage. It's really about offering somebody an advantage with this new system, this simplified system. And quicker support is, of course, something that everybody wants. So we're doing this so that we can offer our customers better support, that they get the right results. Yeah, keep it simple and fast. Yeah, Daniel Tux has a question. Could you make the upload form configurable so that you could enter the partner there? I think that even on Track29, on the form, you could enter partners. No, because you either have a maintenance contract with us or the partner. We don't know which partner is using which platform and offering it to the customer. This could be various platforms, so we are not going to implement it like that. It's also a legal question because everybody who has a support contract with us thus has an NDA with us implicitly that makes it possible to exchange sensible data. And when you have a contract with a partner, you do not have an NDA with us. So there is no legal basis on which we were able to accept this data at all. Yeah, I think that's a complex thing here, a little of a problem. Next question by Antje. Can the sensitive information from the diagnostic files, for example, IP addresses, not be removed or masked automatically before upload? Yeah, you mentioned that, right? Yeah, we're trying to do that. We want to implement that to mask various bits of data. See at which level sensitive data can be present. It could be path files. And of course, even when they are encrypted, or even worse, clear text, they would have to be taken out of the files. We would have to discuss how sensitive IP information could be, maybe mask that data as well, and put like any other numbers or symbols in there. We will think about that to make sure that all the files are being looked at and then adapted accordingly. This could be quite complex for us. So this is not part of the element that we have under control. When there are plugins, for example, or open checks that somebody else has written, it would be really difficult if they write information into log files, because then we don't know the pattern, how it's being entered. So it's really hard to find this information. Yeah, it's quite tricky. I remember in S&P Works, in the beginning, there are fields where you can enter as a customer, for example, contact information. And with the S&P Work, it always says who is the person to contact. But maybe in the neighboring field, there's information that's really relevant for us. So we will have to make sure that things are cut out correctly, but not too much. Well, the first approach would be, well, there could be sensitive information in there, we have to take it out. So yeah, we are having an NDA. So we are following the data guidelines in Europe at a very high level. So of course, all the data is being treated anonymously. So yeah, we really only need the data for fixing problems. Nothing about data protection or privacy. How long do we plan to keep the data? We are deleting all the data within, I'm not sure, but we're deleting it after the ticket is closed, and very shortly after the ticket is closed, we will delete the data. We've got one more minute. So one more question, please. Ingo was just voted up. Sorry, Daniel. You were just voted down. Ingo has 10 votes now. He says, hint, please make sure you've got a GUI for creating the data. There is no upload implemented. This is basically going offline. There are no firewall issues, no partner issues that are to be expected. I mean, you mentioned that we do not want things that send automatically to Checkmk. That's not the plan. You can create a file with the GUI, and then you can send that to us or look into that file or send it to your partner. There is no new connection channel, no new channel of communication. This is just a GUI creating a useful file. Yeah, it's no more, no less than that. Great. So that's it from us. There are still questions from you. So we are moving to the second room, the second stage. Walter is going to the Metzstraße building. So if you know about Metzstraße, Kellerstraße, it takes a few minutes for him to get there. Yeah, I'm at Steigstraße actually, so it's not that far. So I thank Matthias that I have a 5-minute buffer now. So thank you, Walter. We're having a short break here. Well, shortly, we're going on with Lars Mikkelsen and the roadmap.